Welcome back to my channel. I am your favorite single mother of 3 bougie vintage, and today's video is a new segment I'm introducing to my channel, but a really important segment. So I hope that this is something that's going to interest you guys. After sharing my story, the first part of it at least, the comments started rolling in, and I realized there are so many women that are dealing with the exact same type of relationship that I just got out of, and some are still stuck in these relationships and don't know how to get out of them. Because I was so desperate to get out of the relationship, I started therapy, and therapy had really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was unaware of. And because of that, I had been given tools from my therapist. God bless her, like, she's the best therapist ever. I had been given tools from my therapist to kind of see the dynamics between me and my ex. And so I want to introduce you guys to that, because I realize that therapy is not readily available to everyone. And Black women, Black people in general, only recently have we really started to be in therapy and be open about therapy and talk about therapy. And so this new segment I am calling Face the Facts, where I will be doing my makeup and basically taking the tidbits that I get from my therapy sessions and sharing them with you guys to educate you guys and help you guys along your life path, your life journey. So, welcome to Face the Fact. This is technically a part 2 to my story time. Only in this particular video, I'm not exactly going to be sharing anything too personal. I might do a 1 or 2 examples while I'm sharing with you the first thing that really opened my eyes once I started therapy. So let me put my primer on real quick, and we're gonna get into this video. I'm really excited to educate you guys on this, because only since I started therapy did I hear about this. I never ever heard this thing anywhere, never saw it anywhere, had no idea that it existed, what it was, what was on it. It can really put into perspective your relationship if you're in a relationship that includes domestic violence or domestic abuse of any kind, whether physical, mental, emotional, or financial. So I'm thinking that Face the Facts will probably be the new Botox. It's almost like a rebranding of sorts. So the thing that I want to bring to your attention in this video is something called the power and control wheel. I had no idea what the power and control wheel was, had never seen it, had never heard of it. It's like a hidden gem, and it really changed my life once I got access to the power and control wheel. And so maybe you have heard of it, but if you haven't, I think it's really important to know what it is. Even if you're not in an abusive relationship, you might be single and dating, and this is a great tool to have in your arsenal, because you're going to be able to identify certain things. So I'm going to put the power and control wheel up so you can see it, and I'm going to talk about it while I am doing my makeup. Because for the exclusive members to this channel, how I will be breaking this wheel down on my channel, I will be doing story times based on each slice of this pie, or each part of the wheel. I will be doing a story time for each one, and some of those story times will be exclusive to members only, but there will be stuff on the main channel. So if you don't have access to the membership, don't worry, it's not a big deal, because I know that everybody can't have the membership, so you will still be educated, so don't fret too much about it. But there will be things that will not be on the main channel. So if you want to click the link in the description box to join the membership so you cannot miss out on anything, then go ahead and do that. But if you can't, don't feel bad about it either. One thing that the exclusive members will be getting are my personal journal entries from 2 years ago, and sometimes even beyond that, just to get a peek inside my head and what has gone on. It will be intense, so trigger warning in advance. That is one of the exclusive contents that you guys will be getting. The other exclusive content will be actually breaking down text message conversations between myself and my ex-narcissist. So that will help women be able to identify how it is that a narcissist talks to you how a narcissist treats you. It'll show the red flags to look out for. So those are the types of things that I don't really want on the main channel. They will be in the exclusive membership. So those are other things you can look forward to. Beyond that, let's get into the power and control wheel. So the outside of the power and control wheel actually details two major types of abuse, which is physical violence and sexual violence. A lot of people don't think or realize that your spouse, partner, whoever, is capable of raping you. People don't realize that because they think, oh, it's your spouse, it's your partner, how could they do that? That doesn't make any sense. Just because somebody's your partner does not mean they have access to your body when you don't want them to. We shouldn't really have to say that, but it doesn't seem to register to people that just because we're a couple does not mean that you have, 100% access to my body at any time. And don't be confused, because that goes both ways. That goes for both men and women. You do not have access to your man's body if he doesn't want you to have access to it, and you don't have access to your woman's body if she doesn't want you to have access to it. Now, I did not endure these things, but they are there on the power and control wheel, so that's just something that we can talk about if that's what you guys want to discuss. Now, as far as the actual slices on the power and control wheel, the first one that is on the power and control wheel is, of course, using intimidation. This is definitely something I experienced a lot, even though I was never physically abused in my relationship. I definitely experienced a lot of the use of intimidation, and you guys actually witnessed me experiencing it if you were present for that live. There was a video I had posted that night. The use of intimidation was definitely present that night, but that's not the only time that intimidation was used. And intimidation does not necessarily have to be threatening you. It can be something small like getting loud so that you as a woman will shut down. So under the actual use of intimidation, it says making her afraid by using looks, actions, and gestures. So I will give you an example of this, because on Mother's Day I ran to this little ice cream spot. While I was there was a family that came, and so it was a wife, a husband, and their children. The man, I could tell, was abusive. And I actually was almost brought to tears standing there because I was there before them. So I was waiting for my ice cream, and I had ordered ice cream for me, the kids, my mom. So I was waiting for my ice cream, and my cone came out, and it was a waffle cone, but it's an actual waffle, and it had to be in like this huge bowl. And so the family started talking to me. The wife and the son were talking to me. The little boy was probably 11. And so they were communicating with me about how big my ice cream was, and I was telling them, oh, how delicious it is, because it wasn't my first time there. I was talking to them or whatever. The husband wasn't really interacting with me. He was definitely giving off racist vibes, okay? When I was communicating with them, the little boy had kind of got, I guess, distracted, and so the lady at the ice cream counter was asking him a question, and he didn't respond because he was talking to me. And the dad snapped at him, and immediately I started to feel triggered by that tone that the dad used, because it reminded me of what I had recently gotten out of. And I could sense that the woman was, one, embarrassed, but also, she kind of had to it almost felt like she was reminding him, hey, we're in public, please don't act like that, which is triggering as well, because I've had to do that same thing. And so I felt for her in that, but like they kept messing up my order. So they were taking long to give it to me, and literally my eyes are watering as I'm standing there because this man was so rude to the child. And I was just like, oh my God, like, I need to get out of here. So my eyes are watering. I'm like, please hurry up with my ice cream. I need to get out of here. This is not okay. Like, obviously I couldn't say nothing to the damn hillbilly. Like, I needed to go. But at that point, I realized how damaging it has been for me to have been dealing with that narcissist man for so long. Never in my life have I been somewhere and a man talking to his family a certain kind of way trigger me. Like, it's never brought me or moved me to tears. I might look, I might stare and be like, oh God, I hope they're okay. But never in my life has it moved me to tears. So it was a new experience for me. And that falls under use of intimidation. So the next thing would be smashing things, destroying her property, abusing her pets, or displaying weapons. Again, these are not necessarily things that I had to deal with, but there was drywall that was damaged. There have been threats to damage other people's property if they felt disrespected. So I've definitely experienced firsthand this type of abuse, and this on the power and control wheel. If this is something that you believe is, you're experiencing, it's time to pack it up, girl. It's time to go. The next slice on the power and control wheel is using emotional abuse. So obviously we're all familiar with what emotional abuse is and what that may look like. And so the first thing on here is putting her down. I was put down so much in my relationship. I can't even begin to explain to you or express to you how much I was put down. And it could be for the most minuscule of things, and I would just be sat there thinking like, what in the world is going on? Like, it confused me. It mainly confused me. It hurt me a lot. It did. But it confused me because I was like, why is he doing that? I didn't understand. Making her feel bad about herself. Calling her names. I've been called every bitch and cunt in the book, okay? Making her think she's crazy. This is where the gaslighting comes in. There was so much of that. But my therapist had been actually telling me how impressed she is with my ability to call out the gaslighting. I was explaining to my therapist that, like, I didn't even realize I was in an emotionally, mentally abusive relationship because I'm confrontational. So because I'm confrontational and I'm able to hold somebody accountable, I'm able to call you out on your bull, and I'm not afraid to do that, it did not register to me that my relationship was abusive. Because if I'm calling you out, that means I'm not necessarily afraid of you, right? But I realized just because I'm calling him out on what I don't like, that doesn't mean that I'm not being abused. You can call it out, but it's not changing. I think a part of me was like, okay, I'm holding him accountable. So on one side of my brain, I must have been thinking like, okay, well, I'm saying something, so that doesn't mean that I'm putting up with it. But then I'm not leaving the relationship, so then I'm basically subjecting myself to the abuse, but also I'm being gaslit because I'm being told that they have a desire to be with me, they love me, all these things, and I'm falling for the okie dokie. But the fact of the matter was they didn't know how to love me. So you, as a woman, have to be the person that puts an end to your own misery, per se. You cannot give these men chances to prove themselves. You shouldn't have to make them prove themselves. You know what I mean? They should already just be doing that on their own without you having to say anything. The other part of this type of emotional abuse is humiliating her, playing mind games, and making her feel guilty. So this was a big part of when I would hold him accountable. He would always find a way to justify his behavior or flip it on me so that the conversation is no longer being about him. It's about what I do or what I did to deserve the treatment. But it was never justifiable. And I knew that. And I wouldn't allow him to try to justify it. At that point, the conversation would then have to end because it was getting nowhere. And then, you leave it alone. And then you don't necessarily act like nothing happened. But forgive, you don't forget, and you move forward just so that there's no animosity there, just so that there's peace there. But was there really peace? So there wasn't. I didn't have peace. He got to have peace because I'm no longer holding him accountable, but I don't have peace because nothing is resolved. And so this is a big part of the emotional abuse that women are subjected to, and then trying to make you feel guilty. The number one way that abusers get away with what they get away with. My whole thing is this: if I do something that you don't like, you call it out when I do it. You don't wait until I'm calling you out for something to bring up something that I did that bothered you that you didn't say anything about. And that is what a narcissist will do. So be aware that that is typical narcissistic behavior. You may have done something that you don't even realize bothered them, and they hold on to it and hold a grudge. They don't say anything in the moment, but then use it as a catalyst or use it to justify any type of negative behavior that they put out towards you. And I really suffered for a long time with that, which was absolutely insane, especially because of what it was. And we will get into that once I get into the story times, and you guys are going to be like, is this a joke? Is this a joke? The next part of the wheel that is really big in the abuse world is using isolation. Now, originally, I never saw myself in this category or experiencing this, but in a weird way, I was experiencing it because I live in the middle of nowhere. Not really. I live far away from the city. We only had one car. And because we only had one car, and I work in the home and he works outside the home, obviously, he always had the car, except for on the days that he was off. And so in a weird way, I was isolated because I had no access, especially because of what I detailed in the story about him not coming home when he was supposed to. I was isolated. And then I was being told as well, he doesn't want me talking to my mom about whatever him and I are going through, but it was like my mom was witnessing it. Would you have preferred me talking to YouTube? Like, who did you want me to talk to? And at the time I had no therapist, so I didn't understand what the problem was discussing whatever I was going through with my mom, because she was seeing it. So he took me talking to my mom as talking shit about him, when really it was just venting so that I wasn't holding resentment. And so it was important that I had somebody to talk to, because it was my mom and it was God. Those were the only ones I could talk to about my situation. And so, but he was telling me he don't want me talking to her about him because of his ego. But like, if you know you're not doing anything wrong, there should be no problem with me discussing anything with my mom, especially because at the end of the day, she wasn't telling me to leave him. Sure, she was thinking it, but she wasn't saying it. So it's just like, you don't get to dictate who I can talk to and who I can't talk to. Like, what difference does it make me going to my mom and talking to her versus you going to your therapist and talking about me? I'm not there, and you're a bona fide liar, so whatever you're telling the therapist is bull, because you're leaving out a whole bunch of important information. So why can't I talk to my mom but you could talk to your therapist? That don't make no sense. Anyway, controlling what she does, who she sees and talks to, what she reads, where she goes, limiting her outside involvement, using jealousy to justify actions. Obviously, I did state that he was my biggest hater. Privately, obviously, definitely my biggest hater. Like, it didn't even make any sense. He should have been my biggest cheerleader, but he really wasn't. He was very jealous of the fact that I got to stay home and work from home and make more money. That was definitely an issue for him. Whether he wanted to admit it or not, the way he treated me was obvious that he was jealous of me, and the way he would belittle my work when he could, it was obvious there was jealousy there, and he was great at that. There was definitely controlling of who I could talk to. There was controlling of what I could do because I had no access to my car. There was controlling of what I read. Like when I started my spiritual journey and I started journaling a lot more because he wasn't around. When he was around and he saw me journaling, he was mad about that. He didn't like that I was journaling and reading. And I said to him, I have text messages actually from that time where I'm like, the only person I ever seen get mad at somebody reading was Harry Wormwood. Like, that's the only person in the history of Everdom that I've seen them get mad at somebody for reading and writing. Like, why are you mad that I am elevating? That's weird. That was another thing I was experiencing. And like I said, I have a story time for every one of the things on this wheel. So we will get into more vivid details later on where you will be shocked and appalled as I was shocked and appalled while I was living it. This next one is huge, okay? And most people that are dealing with this kind of dynamic or relationship are dealing with this one specifically, which is the minimizing, denying, and blaming aspect of abuse. This one is like it's one of the bigger issues. It goes right hand in hand with the use of emotional abuse, of the belittling, and then the gaslighting. So this one is making light of the abuse and not taking her concerns about it seriously. So if you are bringing it up to your partner, hey, I don't like that you're doing this. Hey, I don't like that you're doing that. Again, basically holding them accountable. If you are doing that and you are basically being told, not even basically, you're being told like, I didn't do that, or that's not what I said, or blah, blah, blah. When you just fully experienced it, that would be this part right here. Saying the abuse didn't happen, shifting responsibility for abusive behavior. This was huge for me, like huge. You do not get to justify treating people badly. You don't, okay? Because if you feel that I did something to you, or if you feel that I am horrible to you, why would you not leave the relationship? And that goes for man or woman. If you feel like somebody is mistreating you, as I did, which is why I left, why wouldn't you just leave? Why would you take whatever you feel they did to you and turn it around to basically treat them badly, trying to like prove a point or teach them a lesson? Like, that's weird. If you are that hurt, you need to leave. Like, that's strange behavior. I don't understand that. But that's what I was experiencing. Saying that you caused it. Now, they might not say those words exactly, but they will definitely allude to that you are the reason. I told you guys in the story time, he tried to blame me for his cheating. No, you don't get to do that. I'm not accepting that. I'm not receiving that. You can't blame me for cheating. I did not book an Airbnb. You did. You know what I mean? So like, you cannot blame me for that. When I gave you opportunity, more than one opportunity to leave, you don't get to blame me for the cheating and then say like, oh, I thought we were breaking up, so I just decided, F it, like I'm gonna book an Airbnb and have sex with somebody. That's problem solving 101. Like, men are dumb. I'm sorry. Not all men, but you know, if you're dumb and you got offended by me saying men are dumb, then that's because you're dumb. So there's that on that. But like, the minimizing, denying, and blaming, huge. Again, if you are experiencing anything like this, pack it up, girl. Don't waste another day. If you feel stuck, I'm telling you right now, you have to unstuck yourself. Do not wait to be unstuck. Don't wait for somebody to come and save you. Save yourself. Now, this next one really only started to come into play after the breakup. So we're going to talk about using children. And this is one of the most hurtful ones for me. Extremely hurtful. There's things missing off of this wheel that I've experienced personally where my children are concerned. And so we will get into that. Most of the things that I talk about that have to do with co-parenting will probably be more on the exclusive content side just because it is super duper sensitive. But I will still try to talk about co-parenting on the main channel. Under the using children portion of the wheel, it states that he will make her feel guilty about the children. He will use the children to relay messages, using visitation to harass her, threatening to take the children away. So there's other things that can fall into this category, and I'm gonna definitely be talking about that on my channel. But this portion of the wheel for me has been the most uncomfortable and the most frustrating, because one of the main reasons that I originally started saying you are not obligated to stay here was because of the parenting. That was one of the reasons. I felt as though he did not want to be a father. And so that's why I was telling him, you can go, because I'm not going to sit there and watch my kids suffer emotionally because you're emotionally unavailable. And that was a big thing for me. And so these men have ample opportunity to be active fathers while they're in the relationship, while they're in the marriage. They don't take those opportunities to do that. You address those situations and scenarios while they're there present with you. They don't do anything about it. And the minute you get rid of them, they start to act like they gave a damn. They start to act like you're doing them wrong where your children are concerned. And it's like, buddy, I tried while you were here. This is the main reason I got you up out of my space. So why are you going to turn around now and try to use them against me? That don't make no damn sense. You didn't want nothing to do with them. Where is this coming from? And so that's why it can be very frustrating. And I think a lot of women deal with that. And all of a sudden niggas want custody? Well, you didn't want custody before. So where are you coming from with this? Like, you know what I mean? Goodbye. Like, they just try to use the children to hurt you. You know, they try to threaten to take your children away or take you to court for your children. When you was here, you didn't even want to watch them for 1 hour. I don't understand. Like, these men are crazy. And so we will get into some things where co-parenting is concerned and how to protect yourself, and we'll talk about, you know, getting lawyers involved and all those things to protect yourself and your children. We will talk about those things because they're really important. And when the resources aren't there, or you're leaving a domestic abuse situation, your head is scrambled. So a lot of the time it's like you can't even find the way to navigate that. So the next portion of the wheel that is here is using male privilege. So treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, being the one to define men and women roles. I didn't experience a lot of this. I feel like it was underlying. He never flat out said that, you know, he never flat out told me that he's the man of the house, and that was never a thing here. So I didn't flat out experience this with verbalization, but that attitude was definitely there. I basically was constantly having to run behind him to tidy up his mess or the children's mess, because he would not clean up after the children. Like, never. It would always be me running behind them. I'm taking wrappers, candy wrappers or cake wrappers, whatever it is, out of my couch because he stuffed it in there instead of getting up and putting it in the garbage. And so he did not do any real household chores. When he was home, it was very much sit there and do nothing. So he wanted to be left alone. He wanted to play his video games, and that was that. And it was hard. And so I didn't really feel like a servant. I'm not going to say that he made me feel like a servant, but I definitely was pulling all the weight. So in a sense, yes, I was a damn servant. What did they call me? A bed wedge? Not I was a bed wedge for the Caucasian man, girl. I can't. But no, seriously, like I've never seen this man clean a toilet. I've never seen him do chores. He doesn't do chores. I'm already having to take care of the kids. My mom does a lot of the chores in the house, obviously. And so he was constantly being taken care of like one of the kids, but didn't appreciate it and would belittle not only what I do as a mom and a wife, but what my mom was doing for us. And that was really hurtful for me too. Like the belittling was just, it took such a toll on me, and it took a toll on my mom to the point where my mom's like, I'm gonna go on strike. Like, I'm gonna go on strike. I'm gonna not do anything because I can't take the belittling. I can't take the way this person acts. Like, their shit don't stink, or like they don't have to do anything. Like, they just have to go to work and pay one little bill here and there, or pay half the rent, and that's that. Like, there's nothing else for them to do. It was crazy that way. So using male privilege definitely was happening, but it just wasn't being vocalized. It was more of an energy that was being put out. I'm going to go put my lashes on and come back, and we're going to finish up the wheel, and then I'll leave you with my thoughts, and then, you know, we'll just wrap up the video. So we're going to talk about the last two things, the last two slices on the power and control wheel. This one is a big one because it is using economic abuse. So obviously that's the financial type of abuse. Preventing her from getting or keeping a job. Making her ask for money. Giving her an allowance. Taking her money. Not letting her know about or have access to family income. I definitely dealt with the financial abuse. Mine was a little bit different because obviously I was the one with more money, and that was obviously being taken advantage of. On top of that, I'm being belittled if I am saying no to things that didn't make sense. And that was used as basically a tactic, and it did work. It was used as a tactic to basically bully me into giving the money for instance, the tattoo. So there was an incident with that tattoo situation where I decided, okay, you know what, I've had enough of this. Let me just give him the money. I gave him the money, and he still had an attitude about it. So I made him send me back the money. Because, like, are you crazy? I gave you the money, you're still mad? No, that not make it. So I got the money back. Pretty much the same week that I had sent it, because it didn't make any sense to me. Like, if you're still gonna be rude to me after I gave you what you wanted, just because now you're mad that I didn't give it to you when you asked for it, but I still gave it to you. So did you have it otherwise? No, you didn't. And then there would be times where I was asking for money, and literally if I knew I had to ask for money, I would get anxiety about it. I would have anxiety attacks. I would have to mentally prepare to ask him for money. Because if you're in a partnership with somebody, if this is a partnership and you're asking for money for something like groceries, there should never be an issue with that. If you're asking for money for something that doesn't make any sense, obviously, you know, that's different. But if you're asking for basic needs and they're not being met, that's highly problematic. Like, I shouldn't be getting an anxiety attack because I know I have to ask a man for contribution to feeding the children, to feeding myself, to feeding him. Like, so that is one of the sections on the power and control wheel that I will share a story time about and give you guys more insight into how the finances were working or were broken down in the relationship. And then the last one is using coercion and threats. Making and or carrying out threats to do something to hurt her, threatening to leave her, to commit, to report her to welfare, making her drop charges, making her do illegal things. Obviously, you guys know I fell into this because I was threatened. I have had a fist raised to my face. I have experienced everything on this power and control wheel, and I didn't know what the hell the power and control wheel was. My therapist introduced me to it, and as I looked at it and studied it, I realized it was my relationship, and it made me be even more serious about getting out of the relationship, because if this is what my relationship looks like, I have no business being in that relationship. And so this was the first episode of Face the Facts where I am doing my makeup and teaching you guys what I'm learning in therapy, because I know a lot of people can't afford therapy. I know a lot of people don't have access to the same resources I have access to, especially being that I am Canadian and I have OHIP, and because I am fleeing a domestic situation, I was given a counselor, a therapist that has really helped me to navigate my situation and really get out of it. When I first started therapy, I was still in the relationship. I was still in the marriage. I was still in a place where I was thinking this can work. But then I was quickly greeted with this and I realized this can't work, because I'm not dealing with a normal situation. I'm not dealing with a normal man, and I'm not dealing with regular relationship problems. I hope this video was informative for you guys. I hope that you guys are going to go and investigate the power and control wheel for yourself. And I hope that you guys stay tuned for the future videos that do involve this power and control wheel. I love you all so much. In the comment section below, tell me what was most informative about this video, and also let me know if you've heard of the power and control wheel before. I love you all so much, and I will definitely see you in the next one.